Okay, so today we're going to be talking about section 4.7. We skipped section 4.4 and 4.5 and 4.6. We're skipping straight to 4.7. It's going to be amazing. So the review of 4.1 through 4.3 is going to involve talking about slope, okay? Can you write down everything you know about slope, okay? One thing I would put, if it's going uphill, it's going to be positive. Another thing I would say is if it's going downhill, I would say the slope is negative. And I would say if the slope is horizontal, it is 0. And then if your line is vertical, it is undefined. Okay, because it goes up or down, but never right or left. Okay, so undefined would be directly vertical, like infinitely big slope. The slope formula equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Another thing we've got would be that if you get 0 over a number, that's going to be 0. If you have a number over 0, that is going to be undefined. Those would be good things to know. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M equals slope. B equals y-intercept. To graph a line, step 1 is to plot the y-intercept on y-axis. You're going to go up or down to plot that point. Step 2 is we're going to do the slope. And the slope, if it's positive, it's up and right. If it's negative, it's down and right. And what you need to do is to do 5 points, do a ruler, and do arrows. Okay? To find the intercepts. So if you're going to graph a line by finding the intercepts, you are going to let x equal 0. Okay, so if you have an equation, you're going to let x be 0 and find y. I'll give an example. Okay, say that we've got 3x minus 5y is equal to 30. If you let x be 0, you would do 3 times 0 minus 5y equals 30. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 5y equals 30. Negative 5y equals 30. Divide by negative 5. Y equals negative 6. So this right here is the y-intercept. How do you know it's the y-intercept? Because there's a number for y, but x is 0. To find the x-intercept, you're going to let y be 0 and solve for x. Okay, so we take the same equation, 3x minus 5 times y, which is 0, equals 30. And then we're going to solve this. We get 3x minus 0 equals 30. 3x equals 30. Divide by 3. X equals 10. So this is the x-intercept. And then you can plot them both. So 0 goes to negative 6, so left and right 0, and go down 6. And then the other one is 10, 0, so to the right 10, but up 0. That would be your graph. And if you graph something by finding the intercepts, you want to make sure it's in standard form first, which has the x and y on the left side and the number on the right side. That's the best way to do it. So organize it first that way. To graph it from slope-intercept form, you're going to do y equals mx plus b, solve it for y. So you can see the slope and the y-intercept. Our vocabulary. We have a family. Spelled family, that's silly. Of graphs. Okay, family graphs includes graphs of equations that have at least one characteristic on. So example, lines. Okay, lines are a family. Okay, they have the same straight shape. Okay, there are parabolas like U-shaped graphs. There's circles. There's ellipses like an oval. There are different shapes of graphs. There's V-shaped graphs. That's what we're going to do today. And so the parent function is going to be the very simplest graph. Okay, so that is going to be, in my opinion, the most important word to look at, the parent function. Absolute value. Okay, so absolute value is the absolute value function, okay, is written, it looks like this. Let's just do this. Looks like y equals the absolute value of x, okay? Absolute value has that on the right. That's the parent function right there, okay? Could you be fancier and write f of x is equal to the absolute value of x? Yes, okay? But y equals absolute, that is the parent of this function, okay? Now, the deal is there are some things we can do to it that make it look like this. But I would say, this is what I want you to look at right here, okay? Y equals the absolute value of x. The next thing we can say is the vertex is the lowest or highest point on the graph. Okay, we're going to be graphing things. Okay, just newsflash, they're going to look like this, a V. Okay, great. The vertex is the part where it turns the corner, where it makes the V. Okay. Sometimes they're upside down. Cool. You know, again, the vertex is still this part right here. So let's make a little picture. Like that part right here is going to be the vertex. Okay. So again, here's what they talk about the parent function. That's a better one. What we're going to say is a transformation. When you're little, it's possible you played with Transformers. Okay, they move. Okay, they're still the same, item, but it changes shape, and so a little bit. And so when we do transformations to graphs, they shift around a little bit. Okay, they can change a bit. Depending what numbers we place on the absolute value graph. A translation, that is going to be one that slides our graph up or down or left or right. Okay, it slides it without flipping it over. And so we are going to start with the parent function here, and we're going to do some transformations to it. Okay. So what transformations can we do? We're going to just basically shift them around, shift them up or down or left or right. And what is that called? That's called the translation. There's a lot here. Okay. This is the parent. This is what you need to know. We're not going to worry about this right here. We're not. No, there's no reason. So let's graph the parent function, the most basic shape. Okay. When you graph shapes, you're going to start with the parent, and then okay, well, how would you shift it up 1? How would you shift it up 5? How would you shift it down 3? How would you shift the very same graph left or right a certain amount of values? And so we have to start with the parent and then graph it. So we'll start with 0, and absolute value means the distance from 0 on a number line. Okay, and so absolute value is distance from 0. So, okay, let's be cute about this. When we plug in x is 0 to this function on the right side, okay, to find y, let's take the absolute value of 0. The absolute value of 0, wait, let's review. What's the absolute value of 3? Okay, look at the number line. How far is 3 from 0 on a number line? It is 3. What is the absolute value of 8? It is 8, okay? What's the opposite value of -2? Well, if you stand on a number line at 0 and at -2, somebody's there, you are 2 steps apart, okay? So basically, you take the absolute value of that number, which means make it positive, okay? There's more to it than that, but that is the most essential part. So what is the distance? What is the absolute value of 0? If you're on 0, how far are you from 0? Well, you are 0. If you plug in 1, how far are you from 0? Well, you are 1 away. What if you plug in 2? The absolute value of 2 is what number? It's 2. And what if you plug in -1 or -2? Plug in -1. Absolute value of -1, if you stand on a number line, is equal to 1. If you stand at -2, the absolute value of -2 is 2. So if you plot these points, you have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, It makes a V. So you start at the origin, you go up one, right one to the right, and up one, left one to the left. That's really how you graph absolute value. And so you don't have to really make the table. We're just going to say you can make the table to establish your first graph. However, to graph absolute value, you can remember this. You start at the origin, you go up one, right one to the right, up one, left one to the left, and that is your graph. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to know the code so that we can graph these, okay? And so the two things you need to know is this, okay? The first thing is, if you would like to move something horizontally, like if you want to shift this graph right here, if you want to move it left or right here, what you're going to do is you're going to add or subtract to the x, okay? Right here in the parenthesis. Okay, so if you see x plus 2 in that group, okay, the code says it's going to be left 2. Okay, it's the opposite of what you see. Because there's a kind of a subtraction going on there, but basically the only thing you have to know is if it's by the x, it's going to move it left or right, and it's going to be the opposite. So if you see x minus 3, what's it going to be? It's going to be right. Okay, so let's just start with that first, okay? Okay. If you have, on the other hand, if you have it outside the group, okay, after the group, that's going to be the vertical, okay? This is horizontal. Well, it's going to be opposite. And this is vertical. Okay. And so, okay, before we do this, I just feel like you guys are more mature. Okay. Okay, so if we look at this graph right here, this is x plus 2. Do you see it's by the x? This is going to be left 2. Okay, so our normal graph is up one, right one. Okay, up one, left one, right here. But if it says, you know what, I want you to take that shape, which, how do you know it's that shape? Because you see these bars here. Okay, and so it says, I want you to graph that shape. Okay, it looks like it's family, but I want you to go left 2 and then graph it. How can we know we go left? Because the opposite of this, what you see. And so it says plus 2, so we're going to go left 2. So go left 2, and from left 2, you're going to go up one, right one, to the right, and up one, left one from that point to the left to make that picture. Okay, anything that is in the absolute value with it will shift it left or right, and it'll be the opposite of what you see. Okay, now the other thing that I talked to you about would be if it's outside, it's going to be vertical. Okay, and that is just the same. Okay, up is positive and down is negative. Okay, so kind of like the y-intercept. So this right here says, I want you to graph a V. How do you know? Because it has bars there. And it's going to be minus 5, so it'd be down 5. So from where? From the origin. Things normally start at the origin. From the origin, let's count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to graph it up one, right one to the right, and up one, left one to the left. And that's our shape. And so we're learning to say, yes, it's absolute value because of the bars. It's not a line. If it didn't have bars, it would be a line. But because as the bars, it's a V. And then what do the numbers do to the picture? And so this one has two things going on. Can you tell that in the parenthesis, in the group, it is a minus 3, so it's going to be right 3 because it's opposite. And this right here is going to be up 1 because it's after the function. So you're going to go right 3 and up 1. And from that point, you're going to go up 1, right 1 to the right, up 1, left 1 to the left, and that will be our shape. You know it's an absolute value because the bars, and then again, knowing the code of the bars, inside it is left or right opposite, and outside it is how much up or down the graph will go. Okay, let's try these next couple. Okay, what does the 4 do? It goes left 4, and what does the 2 do? Down 2. Okay, by the x, moves it horizontally left or right, the opposite of what you see. So go left 4, and then go down 2, Okay, and then now we're going to draw a V. Up one, right one to the right, up one, left one to the left. Make your V. You try the next one, see if you can do it. Does this graph move left to right? No. Why? Because it doesn't have anything added to the X inside the group. What does it have? This right here is up 3. So up 3 from the origin, and then just draw your graph. Draw your graph. No, draw your graph. Okay. The last one will be right 1, because by the X moves it left to right opposite. And this right here is up 5. So right 1 and up 5. And then from there, we're going to graph up 1, right 1 to the right, up 1, left 1 to the left. And there's our graph. So let's think about, can we write what this would do? What would this first one here do? This would be down 3. Why? Because it's not by the X. It's outside the function. This would be up 5. This right here is by the X, so it's going to be right 4. Remember, by the X shifts it. Excuse me, left or right, the opposite of what we see. This is going to be, left 2. This has 2 things going on. This is right 6 and up 9. This is left 1 and down 8. Okay, the creative part is now we're going to write the equation of the pictures. So we're going to write y equals, and you're going to have an opposite value. The question is, if it moves left or right, you have to put the change, how much it moved left or right in the brackets, okay, in the opposite value. And if it goes to the right 4, you have to be snipey and say, oh, I've got to do x minus 4. And it doesn't go up or down anything, so that would be the only change. This one, it doesn't go left or right. However, it does go down 3. Okay, so writing this, y is equal to, this is going to be x plus 1 because it's left 1, and then up 2. And the last one, y equals opposite value of x, and it's right 3, so it'd be minus 3, and then down 2. You got to practice these, don't you? All right, well, that is all I have for you today. I hope you have a great day.